Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. While we're waiting for Alpha 3.10, I wanted to ask a few questions and discuss Star Citizen's quarterly playable alpha releases and patches, as well as talk a little bit about some more critical bits of Star Citizen's development from my point of view anyway. So I'm curious, would you prefer Star Citizen's releases to have new features in their newest form put into the game ASAP without as much bug hunting, a little bit rougher and move on sort of approach? Or would you rather have date-driven releases that aggressively cut and push back features if they're not ready, but releases on a set schedule every quarter without fail? Or do you prefer what Cloud Imperium do at the moment, and like what they're doing, which is a little bit more curated when it comes to patches and seemingly erratic sometimes, though, when looking from the outside, which is sort of targeted date releases. They're targeted, but they release when it's ready. They move on to each stage when it's ready. They will hold back a patch if they have to by a few weeks. If a feature needs a little bit more dialing in, they might hold that for the patch. They might push it back. They might keep it longer in EVOCATI. I've been looking at the way that Cloud Imperium do things, and I think I would like a bit more consistency from my point of view anyway. But there is an argument to be made for the more dynamic way of looking at each individual patch and each individual feature, and then making decisions based on a number of factors on whether that they should release it, or should move a bit back, should delay it, whatever. So yeah, the more dynamic approach certainly has its sort of benefits, but it also has a lot of downsides. There's a bit of a problem for me with this sort of playable alpha sort of mentality and paradox, with Cloud Imperium marketing each of their major patches as these sort of playable new cool feature releases with a load of hype and videos and marketing to show it off in the same way you'd market a fully released product or a new product or something like that. But there's a lot of juxtaposition in stating that the game is also an alpha, but in that sort of media and a lot of their sort of release material, they don't show anything about it being an alpha really, other than saying playable alpha or it's playable now. But the alpha part is incredibly important. It's very much an alpha with all the bugs and, I suppose, development frustrations and evolutions that brings from patch to patch. I think it might be a little bit as well that Star Citizen as a game, project, development, everything about it is very, very unique. And I struggle sometimes to understand why the marketing do what they do in the way that they do it, because I compare it to other games, and really it isn't comparable to other games in the way that they've done their development, in the way that they are doing their development, in the way they've done their monetization model, in the scale and scope of the game. I don't really have much of a reference for this type of project, and the inconsistency, or at least the constant change that the project has come to enjoy, makes it confusing and frustrating sometimes for its followers. The sort of long road to having the project completed and all the features and the plans on paper and the project itself for Star Citizen, I actually absolutely love and adore. I love it, warts and all. I think it's trying to do something absolutely fantastic, and I really enjoy playing it now. That's not really the issue for me. The issue is the marketing as playable alpha, and then a bit of sort of confusion on expectations. Now, I'm certainly fine with knowing that parts of the project and features and bits get slipped back and pushed out and change, and we know that bits of Star Citizen are going to change and there's going to be delays and all that sort of jazz. And I think most of the Star Citizen audience is mature enough to be able to deal with hype and rumours and leaks in the correct way, which is with a pinch of salt at the very least. But the current roadmap is only showing 3.11, for example. There isn't even an updated Squadron 42 roadmap anymore, though we still have the old roadmap for it, seeing sort of like a rough sort of road to completion, although we don't have any dates with it. But only seeing 3 months of the development for the Persistent Universe is a pretty poor show when we expect around 9 to 12 months, the next 2, 3, 4 patches. Even with the roadmap, when it does show features, they often slip, and Cloud Imperium don't fully list features and updates for each patch even. There's a lot of extra ones, lots of surprise ones, lots of more minor parts that would be worth showing on those roadmaps. So the accuracy of these is correctly called into question by some viewers, backers, and people following the project. That said, I do think that the roadmap for the Persistent Universe is still extremely useful in showing what Cloud Imperium are working on in any given quarter, or at least what their sort of priorities for the patches are, what they're sort of planning to do. And a large amount of what they intend to be in a patch for at least the next sort of like 1 or 2 patches in a row, it is reasonably accurate. Some bits move off and get delayed a little bit, some additional pieces get put in. However, the longer something's on the sort of roadmap for, the more likely it is to get changed and moved around. So I suppose if we were seeing 12 months down the line for the roadmap, that patch would look significantly more different by the time we got there. But yeah, even when they do show stuff relatively accurately, we still see slippage, we still see features slip out, and that can be a bit disheartening. Star Citizen is still got a good few more years in its development cycle for its persistent universe. It's a very slow burn for development. This is for a few different reasons though. It's the massive increase in scope, as well as some additional feature creep. There's a lot of trying to get stuff perfect when it comes to certain things. There's certainly a vision for the game that Chris and some of the directors want to get in. There's obviously also been a focus on Squadron 42 as well, but that shares the core of the game and engine between the persistent universe and Squadron 42 for Star Citizen. But I think a lot of it is because they are focusing on playable alphas for the persistent universe rather than trying to get everything feature complete, sort of like behind closed doors, and then going back, fixing it all, getting it all worked up and polished, and then releasing it. But if they did it like that, I suspect that would have a huge effect on the monetization of the project, and would probably actually have a much smaller team, much less money, and a much smaller scope. I mean, and I have to say maybe question mark, because we can't know for sure, because I don't have a time machine and I don't have a what-if-ometer. Well, maybe I do. It's me. I reckon. Also, the integration of features on the roadmap is a little erratic as well. Some being extremely early in development or placeholder when they actually add these features. Others being held back because they want them in a much closer to complete state before adding them. That does confuse me a little bit, how you can hold both of those sort of quite contrary ways of doing things in your brain at the same time, but they do. And maybe it's because each feature is different, and some features, they're sort of like core or like part of the an element of the game where they go, actually, we do want to get this in a more final stage, or it's good to get this up to this stage so that we can then complete this feature, or something like that. Maybe there's a bit I'm not seeing, but if it's a bit that I'm not seeing, that, in my opinion, is Cloud Imperium's fault for not communicating that to me more efficiently, for not putting it on the roadmap, for not talking about it in their many sort of videos and posts that they produce. When it comes to a load of these issues, Cloud Imperium are largely reactive from my point of view, rather than proactive, at least when it comes to communication and development. But I suppose maybe that's just because I'm only seeing it from the reactive point of view, because I wouldn't see if they were being proactive about something, because they would have already fixed it before I see it. Do you see what I mean? So they react to feedback and then they make a statement. It's basically what we see from the open development point of view. And maybe it's because the game's open development. Maybe it's because of that that we see a lot of the feedback failures, or the reactive stuff that's like, well, why didn't they sort that out before? The issue with this is often they say one thing as well, but do a little bit of that thing maybe, and then later down the line, they might change it. For example, I was expecting sort of like more hard release dates for patches, and them to more aggressively cull the sort of features where possible if they weren't ready for a patch. But that doesn't appear to be what's happening. Now, I don't mind them holding back a patch for when it's ready it be released. That sort of makes sense in some situations, but that's not what I was expecting, if you see what I mean. Star Citizen's open development and communication should not surprise me too much when it comes to things. Shouldn't disappoint me either too much, because I should be aware at the earliest possible stage if a feature is getting pushed, or if they're struggling to meet a deadline, or whatever's happening with anything. They should sort of like be communicating that. At least that's what I think. I think tell us as much as you can at the earliest possible stage if there are problems, if there aren't problems, if something's going good, if there's a new feature, if you're trying to get something else in, if there's delays, whatever. Just tell us. So keep on informing us with stuff, and that engagement will really help the community understand what's going on. What's happening with Squadron 42's roadmap? Are there major delays? We don't know. Why is 3.10 not first wave PTU yet? Well, it's not ready, but it would be nice to have a bit more of an official statement from Cloud Imperium every sort of week on that. There's sort of like these roadmap roundups and stuff like that, which, I mean, I would say that sometimes they're really informative, and other times they're just like, 2 of these features went into polishing. But I'd like a bit of a statement beyond, we're close to releasing Wave 1. Well, why hasn't it been released up to now? What are you struggling on? What would make it be releasable Are there blockers? What are the blockers? Things like that. A bit more information, just informing us a bit more. That otherwise we have to get our information from like leaks and things. I mean, we don't have to, but a lot of people do. And that's one of the other things, I suppose. There are various leaks that come with any game's development. But I suppose the longer a game is in development and the more open that development is, the more leaks will occur. Star Citizen suffers from data mines, leaks from sources potentially being employees or journalists, NDAs being broken, that sort of thing, and EVOCATI leaks. It does release builds of the game to quite a wide, more public audience, although they have signed NDAs, and those people playtest. So, to be honest, it doesn't really seem to cause much harm to Star Citizen, these leaks. At least in my opinion, and at least at the moment. But I think that Cloud Imperium should get ahead of leaks and use them, because they know there are going to be leaks with EVOCATI builds now. That's been shown time and time again. If there's a new vehicle or feature or something going out to EVOCATI, new set of missions that they are likely to encounter in an EVOCATI build, that's likely to be leaked. So run the reveal of that new feature or ship or vehicle around the same time that patch goes to EVOCATI. That then generates hype, sales, and controls the information. So if you've got, bam, the new whatever ship of the month, it's a surprise, well, they talk about it as they release it to EVO, maybe even the same day, release this sort of like sales post about it. People will start buying it, people will start talking about it, and that generates hype. And then when the patch goes live a few weeks later, a load of people have bought that ship, they've had a long sale, they'll make a load of money. I mean, it might not be as simple as that, but it seems as simple as that to me. They know that everything they show to EVOCATI will almost always get leaked in some form on Reddit or whatever, and they appear on a load of YouTube channels as well, those sort of leaks. I've talked to Cloud Imperium staff members as well, and they're disappointed when some leaks come out, as they want to surprise and wow the community, and I do understand their frustration. But the wowing, in my opinion, has to come from playing the game. And if someone can spoil it by telling you there is a particular type of mission or a ship in a new patch, then maybe that mission or new vehicle needs to be able to stand on its own wow factor. It's a little bit different if someone like spoils the plot of Squadron 42 or tells you the whole storyline and says, oh, have you got to this bit yet? No, oh god, no, come on. That's extremely lame of them, obviously, and that's a little bit different, spoiling a story, spoiling a film or whatever. That might just be me though, to be honest. Actually, to be honest, I don't care if people spoil films to me, but I would if they did it on my channel or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I respect other people don't want stuff to be spoiled for anything. That's fine. But I can still enjoy a film if I know that at the end of something happens. That's just me, and getting a little bit off topic. I do actually see in the future that leaks could be really damaging to Cloud Imperium's marketing plans, and in the future when they've got like marketing plans for Squadron 42, or they want to release other stuff in the future when they've got a more developed game. That leaks, whatever they could be, whether they're to do with events or whether they're to do with the game itself, whether they're to do with a surprise, that could actually damage them financially, that stuff being leaked. Sorry, this video turned into a little bit more of a rant than I wanted, but it's something I want to talk about. I mean, this is supposed to be a channel eventually as a one-stop shop for Star Citizen, and sometimes there will be videos that are just me having a bit of a rant and talking about things as they literally form in my head. I'm interested to know your views, though, in the comments below, in the most civil manner as possible, as I know some of the topics I talked about might be polarizing to some. So what do you think of the leaks? Do you love seeing leaks and you're like, I'm excited about everything Star Citizen, or do you hate them? Do you like, oh, no leaks, bad leaks, all leaks are bad, or are some leaks bad and not others? Which ones? Do you think the roadmap is a useful look at development, or is it too inaccurate and just like a hype generator? Are you enjoying the playable alpha of Star Citizen now, or are you waiting for bits to be a bit more fleshed out? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Every month there's a ship giveaway. For the month of July, we have a Banu Merchantman and Star Citizen game package to give away. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that is comment on any of my videos made during July 2020. Details to that down below in the links. I'm also a shill for NordVPN. If you're looking for a VPN, then Nord should be considered. It's cheap and fast and helps keep you secure, anonymous, and give you greater access to websites and informations. Use the links below if you're thinking about getting a VPN. Also, a special thank you to Azatec for supporting my content. Find out more down below because they sent me a Alienware Aurora A10, but there's more to it than that, and you can see all the details of my spec down below and all that sort of jazz. If you'd like to further support my channel or content, then please consider becoming a YouTube member, a Patreon, or even donating, but sharing, commenting, subscribing, and liking, all of that really does help too. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.